Since its launch in 2005, Broad Street Review has sought to promote the exchange of viewpoints rather than any particular point of view. To that end, we welcome commentary from professionals and amateurs alike about the performing and visual arts, as well as any other field of interest to our eclectic group of contributors. The following interview was submitted to Broad Street Review, powered by Rep Radio. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in Old City on a beautiful night, and I literally chased down James Ijames down the street. Literally chased him. He was on his way from Lantern Theater Company on the way to Christchurch Neighborhood House, because you wear so many hats, much like all of us, but your hats are getting a lot of attention right now. And I think it was great that I caught up to you, and I caught my breath, and I'm here. We're here with you. So
awesome.
Welcome back to Rep Radio.
Thank you.
We haven't chatted with you since 2011.
I know. That was crazy to hear that. I was like, oh, wow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. I always say the Haas nomination is... It's Philadelphia theater community saying, okay, we're ready to share you with the rest of the world. And then once you win that award, it's so great to see what that award allows you to do, and how much more attention you continue to get. And it's kind of like, as the arts community, we get to sit back and say, we knew. There's people that went to school with you. It was like, hey, it was in my class, cutting up, making jokes, So it's always great to see that progression and to be a part of it, I guess. Yeah. Among the many hats you're wearing, we're here to talk about your white hat.
Oh, it's a Scandal reference.
I know it is. I'm sorry, because I do watch Scandal.
I love Scandal.
All you Scandal haters, y'all need to cool it, because we got to give Shonda her due, even though she blew up Philadelphia with a drone the other day.
I know, and it hit a weird moment in season 3, but she keeps finding the secret sauce again.
Yeah. Because either way, you're just as excited. You're just like, she didn't.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta watch it again. Okay, I'll keep up. I don't know where the storyline's going. I feel like this presidency should have been over by now, but
it's the longest
still
presidency
going.
In American history.
Exactly. But we're here. We're not here to talk about Shonda Rhimes' wonderful career or Scandal. We're here to talk about your career. You've had a wonderful year.
It's been a good year.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on with you. We're here especially to talk about your production of White, which is currently on stage at Theater Horizon. And if you didn't get your tickets, go get your tickets. What are you waiting on? I mean, they've already extended. They're giving you time. So you have to buy 2 tickets. You can't go all the way to Norristown by yourself.
That's real.
Got to bring a friend. Got to bring a friend and tell somebody who knows somebody to tell somebody about this production. Okay, so before White opened, there was such a buzz about this production, and White was a part of the PlayPenn annual conference in 2015.
Yeah.
Right? So tell us about White, and then we'll talk about the journey of its start to now.
Yeah. How many times have I told this story?
Change it up a little bit.
I'm
trying to be a little different.
I was in Baltimore doing a play at Baltimore Center Stage. I was doing Coleman Domingo's Wild with Happy with Philadelphia's Forrest McClendon. It was really great. And while I was there, I was trying to quit smoking. So I decided that I would write every time I had the urge to smoke. And so I wrote this play very quickly. I wrote it in like 2 weeks. And the spark of the idea came from reading this article. I think it was on someone's news feed on Facebook about this African American artist collective called the Ijames that had, in protest, removed themselves from the Whitney Biennial because of this controversy around this guy named Joe Scanlon. Mm-hmm. And the sort of novice researcher in me is like, well, now I have to find out who this person is. And then I did a little digging, not much digging because it was all over the place, and discovered that he is a white Ivy League professor, artist, who was creating this piece of art, or this sort of artistic experience. I'm not exactly sure how to talk about it. And a part of that was that he hired actresses to play an artist, to pass off work as their own, when in fact it was work that he had made. And there were several different components of this. One of the actresses he hired was a very famous actor here in Philly named Jen Kedwell. So when I found, I was like, Jen Kedwell is one of the people. Well, I have to talk to Jen Kedwell. I talked to Jen, and she told me that she was very much a part of the art making process. That it wasn't. It had been sort of like advertised as he was, using her, or that he was in some way manipulating these women. And she said to me, "No, I have as much agency as he does in this process." And I thought this was fascinating. Like, I sort of made an assumption about what was going on, and to actually talk to someone who was involved with it, it really made me start to think about representation, about who has agency, about who gets to tell what story. Mm-hmm. And so that really started to reshape how I thought about the play. I'd written a draft very rapidly that was sort of angry and impulsive based on what I'd read. Yeah. And then after talking to her, I feel like I got a more holistic look or understanding of what actually happened. I still think it's complicated. I still think it's not cut and dry or clean. Yeah. But I think what talking to her helped me create a story that was more nuanced than what I had originally written. And so that's how the play emerged. I also wanted to write a play, and I've been wanting to write a play for quite some time about how gay culture appropriates and utilizes, black female bodies, black female signifiers as, like, I don't know, as fodder for their own sort of, like, I want to feel fear.
If it's our local color.
Yeah.
As if it's the gay community's local color.
Yeah, like, and so I kept, like, running into people that would say things like, every gay man has a black woman inside of them. And I remember being like, I'm related to black women. Like, that's tricky for me. Yeah. And, the first couple of times you hear it, it's like, oh, that's funny. And then the more you hear and the more it keeps getting reinforced, the more you realize that, like, oh, wow, this is actually pervasive in the culture. Like, this owning of a body that's not your own. Yeah. And cultural signifiers that are not your own. So I'd been wanting to write about that for a while in some form or fashion. Mm-hmm. And so those two things sort of collided in White. Yeah.
Yeah, I could go on a whole tangent about that comment.
Yeah.
It's like so every gay man has a black woman inside them? Okay, but none of you want to talk to black men.
or I mean, I don't know about that, but, like,
particulars about those things.
Well, that's definitely real.
Yeah.
That's definitely real.
Yeah. The Whitney Biennial is never too far from controversy.
Yeah.
Even this year,
Yeah.
they had a very similar thing with an artist. I believe a female artist. I believe she was Jewish. Not that I had anything to do with it. She interpreted one of the shootings, one of the black bodies that we've lost in the past years.
It was actually it was an abstract recreation of the photograph of Emmett Till in his casket.
Yeah.
And it drew quite a bit of protest and quite a bit of controversy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I looked at it and was like, I don't know if I like this. Not the impulse or even the intention, but legitimately, like, as a piece of art, I don't like it, so I'm not going to look at it.
Yeah.
But it's not the first time. It's not the last time. It's always going to be something that they're going to butt up against, because I actually think that they're interested in trying to push,
Provoke.
and maybe that is what I know that as a writer, as a theater artist, I'm desperately interested in pushing and provoking. Like, I think it's in a lot of ways, I feel like it's my responsibility.
Yeah.
Someone asked me in another interview, it was like, do you like to provoke people? And I was like, I hate that word, but that's, I had to own up to the fact that, like, I am seeking some provocation. I am trying to make people uncomfortable. I do want people to be shaken. Otherwise, why the hell are we... can I say hell?
Yeah.
Okay. Why the hell are we
Say
doing
whatever you want. This is a podcast.
But, it's like, what can we do if we're going to survive? If the form is going to survive, what can we do that is ours?
Yeah. And we can't ignore that it's... we can't pretend that these things don't exist either. And I think, at least... some people have this idea of theater as being this sort of kind of like classic film, sort of this depiction of what the dream is, and really what it is these are just interpretations of life.
Yeah.
And the more voices that get to express their view of life, we are going to see things that make us uncomfortable, that are not the necessarily the ideal things that we were looking for. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are people out there who enjoy comedies that also enjoy, dramas or horror films or all those genres. And you don't just say, oh, I can't.
Right.
I can't look at that one thing.
Right.
I can only look at this. So you write this out of town, and you submit it to the conference, and what sort of shape was it in when it got to the conference, and how did the conference help you, tool it?
It was pretty early in terms of draft. I'd done a couple of drafts before submitting it, and then between the submission and casting the actual reading, I'd done another draft. So there was a new character even between submitting it to PlayPenn and it getting to the point where we were casting it. So by the time we got to the table, it had been worked pretty hard, and then PlayPenn process is so rigorous, and got that? The
showing off for the kids.
Yeah, no, right. It's an incredibly rigorous process, and it's my second time at PlayPenn, and I love it there because it is playwright centric, and Paul and Michelle and Karen, they all do such a really great job of making sure that the playwright is central. And so I use every single second, moment, hour that I have both in the room and at home during that 2 and some odd days, 2 weeks and some odd days that you have. And what I came out of the other end with, I felt like was much closer to the story that I wanted to tell, was much cleaner, was much more, was sort of taking different forms. Like it's, the play pulls on sitcom format. Mm-hmm. It's oh, you rascally kid, you got yourself into a pickle, and now what are you going to do? I mean, it definitely borrows from that. Mm-hmm. And there's constant reference to, there's quite a long joke about the Cosby Show in the play, mm-hmm. because I'm directly pulling from that form, and then the play tries to upend at every chance that it gets this very American form of entertainment, which is, I understand how jokes work rhythmically. I understand how jokes work in terms of like, oh, this is going to be a slightly off-color joke, or this is a joke about gender. Yeah. And how are the ways in which you then start to disrupt the water of that? Mm-hmm. So by the time we get to the end of the play, which I won't spoil, all of that convention is gone, and we're actually dealing with something strikingly more extreme, like the extremity of what could possibly happen and what does happen just extends itself, so that we can't ever go back to oh, Roger, you're in trouble now. We mm-hmm. can't ever go back to that. We have to continue to move towards, well, what do we do now that we have this mess? Yeah. And going into PlayPenn, I had no clue that that's what the play should look like and what the play should be. And by the time I was done, I was like, yes, absolutely. This is how this world works. Mm-hmm. And I find that I often don't know structurally what the play should be until well into a development process. Yeah.
How and when did Malika get involved?
So Malika had been working with Theater Horizon for, I think she's done a few readings out there, and Aaron really wanted to work with her on a full production. And I've known Malika for quite some time, and I've always been really impressed with her work as a director. So when Aaron said that that's who they wanted to direct the play, I said, okay, that sounds great. And it was really a dream working with her. She handled the play with so much care and so much grace, but also like fierce intelligence, and she didn't let anyone off the hook, present company included. I think I'd never worked with her as a playwright before, so I'm incredibly grateful for that opportunity to get a chance to work with her on the play.
Yeah, because I follow her on the social channels, and I'm like, doesn't she have a play that she has to direct soon? Because she was out of town, and she's doing her thing too. She wears multiple hats as well.
She's a busy lady.
Yeah. So it's great to see that involvement. So we're talking after opening night. What were your thoughts walking into opening night, and what were some of the responses you received after that?
I hide. So I'm being completely serious. I do hide because I'm in this weird position in this city of being someone who most people know as an actor. Mm-hmm. And that's a very different relationship, spatial relationship with people who know you or who have seen your work. And so I don't. What I learned from previous productions is that I don't actually get to have the anxiety that a playwright typically has, because people know me as being gregarious and sort of open. Yeah. So I hide, and I did. I hid until like right before I had to come in to sit down. So I didn't talk to people very much before. Post, you can't really talk to everybody because everybody is trying to talk to you. Yeah. But the responses were overwhelmingly positive. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Like, I think people were excited by it. I think some people were really troubled by it. I think some people didn't get it. And I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
You know, I think some people legitimately were like, I don't know what I just watched. And I think that is a valid response to a piece of theater. Should be one of the valid responses to a piece of theater. It's like, I didn't get it. I don't understand what happened.
We always say that the missing piece is that audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we get to opening night, we get that audience in the room, and that's the one piece we can't rehearse.
Mm-hmm.
But the other piece, I feel like, is missing too, is that ride home. You know, for the people who got it, for the people who didn't get it, because I have sort of this rotating list of plus ones that come to shows with me, and I look forward to the departure from the theater, because that conversation is going to be fueled. You know, we're going to have different perspectives on it. I'm going to have some sort of backstory. I've done some sort of research. I may have done the interview, but we'll have this conversation, and then we'll start to pull in present day. You know, because I do believe, at least for me, I do escape when I go into the theater. I forget what the date is, and I forget what's going on outside for this moment. But then you walk out into the world, and many times I walk out of a theater and I've got this big smile on my face, like, for one, I'm just so fortunate to have experienced this. The other is just that my experience is so uniquely mine, and I gotta talk to somebody about it, and then everybody I talk to about it, it becomes more elevated. So I'm wondering if those people who walked out and didn't get it, went to someone and said, so what'd you think of that? What'd you think of White? And now they're layering on top of what they initially felt when they walked out.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Ed Sobel, who I've worked with a lot in my career, always says the only thing that your only responsibility to an audience is to give them an experience. And it's like, it doesn't have to, what that experience is not up to you, and you actually don't have any control over that. Like, people come, they get a flat tire on their way to the theater. You have zero control over that. You have zero control over their experience. Whether or not they ate something they shouldn't have eaten at dinner before they came. And all of those things affect how they receive something.
Or their husband fell asleep next to them during the show.
So all I can offer as a theater artist, and that's an actor, that's a director, that's a playwright, producer, whatever it is you may do in the theater, is that you work very hard to make sure that there is an experience and it is something that people can engage with. But beyond that, I release myself of the responsibility to make sure that people like me, to make sure that people are entertained, whatever that means, because entertainment is different for everybody. I relieve myself of the responsibility to be nice. And what happens is that suddenly I find myself more often now in a dialogue with people than a one-way conversation of, I come here, I entertain you, you consume the entertainment that I have wrought, and then we part ways.
One thing, one thing I'm always thinking of, especially because we have so many dynamic writers here in our community. If we are fortunate enough to experience the world premiere, I'm always thinking, in your mind as the playwright, is this play locked now that you've seen it?
No. I the next production will have a pretty substantial change in one of the scenes that I'm not going to make that change now because they're in performance. But like,
you know what? We need to talk on Saturday.
But I also feel like you don't know what a play is until it's done. So like it's not really done until you've seen it and you go, oh, okay, this is clear to me. This needs more clarity. I need to understand this more. This is not working.
Yeah.
You know, there was a moment that we had seen all the way through previews at the very end of the play that we just changed right before opening. And, you know, that's what a new play feels like. That's what a new play is, right down to the wire sometimes.
I think it's good for people to hear that because, you know, I consume tons of conversations throughout the day, throughout the week, and I listen to interviews with playwrights and screenwriters, and everyone has this concern when they're on the outside looking in. They're looking at making this perfect before they hand it to somebody or before they submit it to like a PlayPenn, and you know, but there's so many things that inform the writing and can change the writing. You know, like you said, the people who came to the theater, who are coming to the theater tonight, something might happen to them on the way here that informs and changes their overall perception of the play tonight. But at this, you know, things happen in life where you're just like, you know what? Because of what happened last week, I feel like scene 5 needs to be tightened up.
Yeah.
And it's good for people to know that.
Yeah.
As a playwright, what do you think? Well, artists in general, but what do you think we should be thinking about right now? There's so much going on in the world. There's so many things that you would think maybe a few years ago we weren't as focused on, but now we are. I've had so many conversations this year where people said, we went into rehearsal after the election and it changed everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how or why? And, you know, but I always ask that question, so I'll pitch it to you. Like, what do you think people should be thinking about right now as they are putting these thoughts to page?
I don't want to project on anybody what I think that they should be thinking about. But I can talk to you about what I'm thinking about, and what I am. There's a few things. So one thing in particular that I am very much exploring in my writing and in the things that I've been working on is the future. And not need. Some of that is like robots and androids, and some of that is just like, what is our relationship to violence, and how do we track that into the future? If we look at the present moment, and if we don't change, if we don't augment how our individual personal relationships to violence, what does that look like 20 years from now? What does that look like 30 years from now? And it's all speculation. And I think there's something about speculation that I think is inherently theatrical. When you look at someone like Shakespeare, who had never laid eyes on Verona and yet was able to create some of the most iconic images and ideas of what Verona are in his plays. Yeah. I think the speculative is really important. So that's one thing that I'm thinking about, writing about, considering, grappling with. I'm also thinking about what does the human relationship look like on stage? I don't know that I have any definitive answer about that, but like thinking about, this is sort of connected to the future too, like how are we going to continue to depict human relationship on stage in a way that can compete with what TV or film can do? Yeah. Like, is there a way in which how we talk about human relationship and how we depict human relationship is inherently theatrical and inherently urgent, like has an urgency to it, and is not trying to mimic what we see every day. Yeah. Like I am absolutely happy to go to the theater and the curtain rise and I see a kitchen not unlike my own kitchen. my preference would be to not see that because I just left my kitchen.
Yeah.
And then the final thing I would say that I'm thinking about and grappling with is just in terms of like writing towards production as a playwright, thinking in terms of scale. How small can I write something? Like how I'm not even talking about intimacy, just like how small, how economic can we be? Because I feel like a large part of the future of theater is like playing that economic game of like how much scale can you ask a production to have?
Yeah.
And then how can you make something that's actually very small that has an ocean inside of it?
Yeah. You can't tell this story without a horse.
So there's a lot of different ways to do that, you know, like this play kind of died on the computer, but I was trying to write a play that had a marching band and an elephant in it, just to see if I could do it. And those two images felt like something that I wanted to see inside of a theater.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I've been thinking a lot about theatricality in relationship to scale. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the current political climate or not. I do think that I'm writing bigger because of the current political climate. I'm writing things that are not in any way trying to reference, you know, the current administration. But I'm definitely writing in such a way that I want to be sending a flare up to let the current administration know that I think that they're bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how I've been grappling with it. I think other people do it in different ways. You know, I don't lead from pain. I typically lead from, you know, I'm a jazz guy. I'm not a blues guy. So I typically lead from a place of like exuberance and rebellion and sort of like mooning. You know, it's like, have you ever mooned somebody? There's something there's supremely defiant about that.
Sounds like a school bus. School bus thing.
Yeah, it's like something supremely defiant and like delightful about that. And that's where I traffic in, and I think that those are acts of rebellion. You know, I just watched that Netflix show, Dear White People, and one of the lines in the show is, sometimes black joy is a form of rebellion. I just butchered that, but like something along those lines. And I'm like, yeah, that's where I live at.
Yeah.
You know, that's my house.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna cry for y'all.
That brings up another question. Since I was having a conversation earlier about Dear White People and how people are upset about the Netflix series, like the movie didn't come out, like there wasn't a book, and they're just hearing the title and feeling offended in some way. When this title, this play is titled is White. Did when you figured out that that's what it was going to be called, did any of that sort of cross your mind? Did you think, like, I wonder if people are going to think this is an attack or any kind of...
I always knew it was going to be called White because I knew that I wanted the artist to work in white. So that was always there.
And not that I think we should feel that way, because, you know, when I saw Dear White People, and I was like, this is going to be good. I mean, it was like the previews and everything. I know they sort of played up all the humorous moments, but it was like, I just heard all my, you know, black female friends saying, like, I know that's right. You know, like, for a lot of the commentary that was being said from the main character who has the show, and it was just like, because this is probably going to be very relatable to me. I think I'm going to understand this on a different level. Yeah. But I wonder what kind of what people are going to assume this is before they get a chance to experience it.
I don't think you can worry about that. Like, I think if we're gonna like be in this perpetual state of like I don't want to offend people,
Mm-hmm.
then we have to like really take into consideration what it is that we want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I certainly believe that there are things that are offensive that people should not be saying and people should not be engaging with. And then I also think like sometimes I'm like, is this the hill we want to die on? Like I do think that that I want to always be challenging everybody that comes into the theater.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a scene in White that is not, you know, so like the play is a little bit of a critique of white liberalism. And there's a scene right smack dab in the middle of it that is actually asking a question of the African American community. And how are they going to enter into this play? And it comes in out of nowhere, and it's something that I've experienced in watching the show with very diverse audiences, and some people are like, "Oh, this is all great." This is not something that I came here to engage with, and I'm troubled by it. And so, my sincere desire and my sincere hope is that I'm challenging everybody in the room, and then, you know, I'm not going to go so far as like Family Guy and say like nobody's safe. I do think I take great care with like I try not to make jokes about black women, because black women are always the bottom of the joke. So there's nothing novel or interesting or creative about me engaging in that. Nor do I think that kind of humor is funny. But at the same time, I don't want to just like punch down at white ladies and punch down at white gay guys.
Yeah.
But what I do want to do is sort of like build a space in which they suddenly find themselves in a circumstance that they have to like actually confront. Like, oh right, I think that way. Oh right, I say things like that. And that's different from mocking.
Yeah.
And it's also different from like scolding people.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did, and I usually end with what would you like the audience to take away from this? And I think you said it. You said several times that you want to challenge the audience, and I think that's I think if we're not entering the theater to be challenged,
you'd be shocked.
I know. I know, you know, like, I think there's a criticism about some companies in Philadelphia that, you know, the conversation on the outside is they're just putting up shows that allow people to escape for a moment and not think about things. But I feel like that very same space that gets that criticism, I walk out every time questioning and commenting and having conversations. It's like, just because this is a classic, just because this is a draw, doesn't mean it doesn't have a relevant message, doesn't mean there's no artistic vision in the curation of this season. You know, you have to factor that in. Like I said, you know, if we're sitting experiencing a play that was written 50 years ago, you know, that was last produced in the 90s, you know, but we're seeing it today, it has something to say because they chose it.
Yeah.
So I always want to know why they chose it.
Or it might not have anything to say, and that's okay too.
Or why they
like,
put it in the season.
You know, like I'm of the mind of like, I won't get specific. I won't get specific. There are plays by Shakespeare.
This is the part of the play. This is the part of the play where the interview where you name names.
I'm not going to get specific. It's not people. It's plays. There are Shakespeare plays that don't need to be done. They just have no business being done. And people
when
do.
When I stop recording, I'm going to have you tell me.
People do them. People do them all the time. And sometimes I go to see them and I'm like, that was unexpectedly wonderful. I did not expect that to move me. I did not expect that to trouble me.
Yeah.
And I still walk away thinking, there's no reason to do that play again.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I've written plays in my career. Like, there's a play of mine that's going to happen in New York called Kill Move Paradise. That's about police killing black men. One day, and I hope I live to see it, I want that play to be obsolete.
Yeah.
I want that play to not be necessary anymore. And I think what we get caught up in is that we just want, I just love that play. I just love, you know, I'm trying to be really good right now. I'll pick something innocuous and something that I actually do love. I just love Barefoot in the Park. No need. Not right now. There's no need to do that play. There are a dozen plays that have been written since that play that look at quick love, that look at newlywedism, that look at New York, that are better plays than that play.
Yeah.
And will resonate with an audience better. But I love Barefoot in the Park. It's a damn delightful play. So, like, yeah, let's do it. So I'm never going to tell anybody, like, don't do a play that you love, or don't do that play, it's stupid. But I do think that I'm like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this play? And that might be a little bit because I'm a playwright and I want people to do my plays.
Why are we doing that, James?
Why are we doing my newest? And sometimes I'm like, people don't need to do this play. There's no need for this. There's absolutely no need for this.
Like, we just need one. We have to have one. I was thinking back to when I think when I did my first call for scripts, you sent me your scripts, and they're in my list. They were in my my first sort of collection of plays of submissions that I had received. And
oh my God! What plays were there?
I meant to look it up on the way here, and I said, oh my God, I missed an opportunity to help elevate a James Ijames piece.
Maybe not.
No, I think one of the ones you sent me did get produced by another company, but I wasn't ready, and I was, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, can't we just ask for plays? And then we get people involved when we want to do their play. I don't know that we can do that anymore. Do we still do that? I guess.
Yeah, that happens.
The listserv is different than it was before.
Oh no, that doesn't. No, that's different.
Yeah,
but
I felt like I know there's a more elaborate process there, but you know, back in 2005, 2006, there was an ignorance that I wish I still had that made me a little bit more fearless about moving forward.
2006. Yeah. I think I have a sense of what plays those were. Those were not good plays. That's
but
okay.
They were the beginning.
They were the beginning, and I'm not ashamed of them, but they were good.
Yeah.
You know?
But you know, you have to get them out there. You gotta write them so that you can write better work.
Yeah.
And even if people walk out saying this is brilliant, there's something in it where you say, no, I think I missed the mark on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And instead of retooling this, you go and write something else that is informed by the experience of this.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I find that my plays are never saying like, oh, look at where we could go. I'm always like, okay, let's not forget that this is still nonsense. Yeah. And we still have work to do.
Yeah. It is always a sad realization when we can point back to something that's happening today, and you're like, but that happened 20 years ago. But that also happened 40 years ago. But that also happened. It always happens. It's still happening. So, you know, you write something today and you're thinking like, if I don't produce this for another 5 years, don't worry. It'll still be valid because it takes a while for us to learn lessons.
It doesn't have to, but it does.
Society, yeah. Well, the the play that you can experience now is White. It is produced by Theater Horizon. It is on stage now. It has been extended through May 28th. So you can get your tickets by going to Theater Horizon. That's Theater R-E, horizon.org. James, it was a pleasure touching base with you. I always see you in passing, or I always see you at the Barrymore after party.
Yeah.
And we always have a nice chat when I do see you, but I never have my microphones on. So
It was great talking.
It was good chatting with you and catching up to you, and let's not be strangers. We're not strangers.
We're not strangers at all.
My mic's saying let's not be strangers.
Right on. You got it.
Yeah, thanks for chatting with me
Absolutely.
today.
Absolutely.
This podcast is brought to you by Broad Street Review, the website where art and ideas meet. Since 2005, BroadStreetReview.com is the place knowledgeable Philadelphians turn for honest, independent, and passionate criticism and commentary about Philadelphia's dynamic arts scene. Join the conversation. It's free. You can reach Broad Street Review online at BroadStreetReview.com. Follow us on Twitter at Broad Street Review and like us on Facebook. To show your support for this podcast and our Philadelphia area arts coverage, please go to BroadStreetReview.com and click the button at the top of the page that says Contribute. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.